Hi everyone, I am so happy to be home and to finally be able to share all of my experience with you guys. I thought I would do a little 15 to 20 minute video kind of explaining to you guys where I'm at and telling you all about my journey in Hungary. I apologize if you see me flipping through my notebook. I took some notes on what I wanted to talk to you guys about, so I will try to do that as quietly as I can. And after this video, I will schedule some times to have online question and answer sessions so that you guys can ask the questions that you want to know about my year, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. So to start, I wanted to share with you guys some expectations that I had about my Yagam year in Hungary and what actually happened. So one of the biggest things that I had perceived about Hungary before I went was that it was a pretty boring country. I didn't really know a lot about it. I wasn't even 100% sure where it was on a map. If you don't know, it's the round country that's in the middle of Central Europe. It borders, I think, 8 or 9 other countries, so there is lots of borders, and it's totally landlocked and has no ocean whatsoever. That was very strange for me, being from South Carolina and being able to drive to the beach in less than a day, just a couple hours, to moving somewhere that had absolutely no beachfront at all. But in Hungary, they actually call their lakes, they have beaches that are around their lakes, and I actually got to go to one, and it was beautiful. I am showing you guys a picture of it now. You can see it was kind of cloudy on that day, so the sun wasn't really out, but they call their beaches, or the one that I went to is called Sárga, which means yellow in Hungarian. So the sand is very yellow, and people frequently go there during the summer to have kind of their beach time, as we would call it. Anyways, I expected Hungary to be this little country that didn't really have a lot going on, but it ended up being beautiful and wonderful, and it was far more interesting than I ever thought that it was going to be. There is so much going on and so much beautiful countryside there. Everything is green. There is not a whole lot of cars. It is much more common in Hungary to walk or to bike ride wherever you need to be. I think I did more walking while I was there than I have probably in my entire life. And that's just normal there. It's normal to take 45 minutes to walk to the store if you need to. So everything is much more nature friendly than we are here in America, and that was one of the biggest things that I loved about it. I loved seeing all of the flowers and all of the trees and all of the animals. It was just gorgeous. Another expectation I had of my year was that I was going to have this big life-changing moment that was going to completely alter the course of my life forever. I think a lot of you probably have that expectation too, hearing about a Yagam year and what we do, but usually that's not the case. What we do is we take our lives and we just move them to another country. So I wasn't there to be a savior or to be a missionary, but instead I was there to just walk alongside people and to kind of live my daily life with them. Before I go into anything else, I would like to tell you guys about some frequently used words that I might use during this presentation and define them for you guys so that you know what I'm talking about. The first one is accompaniment. The ELCA uses this word all of the time when we talk about young adults in global mission. What it means is, the way that they defined it, is walking together in solidarity that practices interdependence and mutuality. In the walk, gifts, resources, and experience are shared with mutual advice and admonition to deepen and expand our work within God's mission. So what that means is, instead of going to save someone, as missionaries tend to do, or to convert people to Christianity, we went to walk alongside them and to build relationships. Another saying that I really loved that we talked about in our Yagam year a lot is that the very essence of God is relationships. So to have God, you have to have these deep, meaningful relationships with people around you so that they can see God through you and through what you're doing in their lives. Another word that I might use a couple of times is Roma. The definition of this is the Roma people are a very large minority in the Central European and really Europe in general. They came from India a very long time ago, and they kind of belong to a lot of different countries. There are Hungarian Romas, there are Serbian Romas, there are lots of different Romas everywhere. I was very blessed to be able to work with this population while I was there. I taught at a Roma dormitory, which is not really what our dormitories are like. They are where the students live, but they also have classes there, and they are required to do certain things in the dormitory to kind of stay there, so they have to take certain courses and do certain requirements to stay. So I was lucky enough to teach English classes there twice a week the whole time that I was in Hungary, and it was so much fun, and I really feel like I got a better understanding of what the Roma people are all about. And if you have any more questions about that, I will happily answer them for you in our question and answer parts later on. So to start my presentation for you all, I would like to talk about some of the best things that happened to me when I was in Hungary. So I think the main part of my year really was the relationships that I built with people. I went into Szeged, which is the city that I was in Hungary, thinking that I was going to have this great 9-to-5 job. I was going to go to work, I was going to be able to help, and to be able to do all of these things that were going to leave a lasting mark in a physical way that people were going to be able to see for many years to come. That didn't happen. You know the saying where you tell God what you want to do and God laughs and makes you do something different, which is exactly what happened to me. I got there and I didn't really have a job. Instead, I was pushed into very intentional community with my city. So I had all of these opportunities to make friends and to be around people and to just live with them and walk side by side with them. About 2 weeks into my stay in Szeged, I joined a club that was called the Szeged Language Swap. And at first I was a little bit hesitant to join because it was a whole bunch of people that I had never met from all over the world. But at this point I was really craving someone to speak English with, and this club had mostly people that spoke at least some decent conversational English. So I pushed myself to go, and I think it was the best thing that I did while I was there. I ended up going to this club every week, or almost every week that I was in Szeged, and also creating friendships with these people and hanging out with them many times out of the week outside of the club. We had movie nights, we got food together, we did everything together, really. We went bowling, we did everything. And these people are still people that I talk to now. We have so many group messages that we're in together, and I really feel like I made some lifelong relationships through this group that I just happened upon to join. And it really changed my outlook on the city. At first I was a little bit hesitant because I was quite frankly bored. I didn't have anything to do. If you know me, you know that I love to be doing things and live this fast-paced life, and I wasn't having that because I didn't feel like I really had a job. When I joined this group and started making these relationships, I realized that my job didn't have to be something physical. It could be something emotional. So my mindset kind of changed into solidifying and forming these relationships that were going to last forever. Towards the end of my stay, so in March, I invited my friends to a church service that I was leading, and they actually came, and a lot of them, it was their first chance to be in a church ever. So even though I didn't feel like I was doing anything physically, I think the emotional connections that I made really impacted my heart and their hearts, and bringing them into the church in ways that I might not have expected it to happen. Another great thing that I did is, I mentioned earlier that I had the opportunity to teach English in the Roma dormitory, which was amazing. And for those that know, I am not a teacher by any way, shape, or form, so I kind of got to learn how to teach through teaching them, and they were super understanding and very helpful in understanding that I wasn't a teacher and I didn't really know what I was doing. but we had plenty of time to learn and grow together. One of the first lessons that I taught, and I think it's very interesting, was the differences between facts and stereotypes that Hungarians have about Americans. It is very interesting to hear what other countries think of America. One of the best things that they said, and I thought it was so funny, is that Americans are all lazy, we aren't very friendly. They said all sorts of things. I think there's a picture on my Facebook, and I will share it now so that you guys can see some of the facts versus stereotypes that they were saying. It was pretty funny for me to listen and figure out which side of the line they wanted these things to go on. So a big thing that other countries, or at least Hungary, seems to think about America is that we're this big, grand country where everyone gets everything that they want and people don't have to work very hard and you just get stuff. So it's very interesting for me to hear that coming from America and knowing that everybody here works so hard to get what we want and that our opportunities are great, but they're only if you look for them. So I spent a lot of time talking about that with my students, and it was very interesting. Teaching was definitely an enriching part of my year. I didn't think that I was going to enjoy it, but by the end of the year it was something that I looked forward to doing twice a week. I thought it was great, and I formed relationships with my students where we would also do things outside of class. I was invited to several things at the dormitory that I went to, lots of Advent devotionals, talent show almost. That was very fun at Christmas time. And I just kind of got to do all of these other experiences. So I had a lot of fun teaching. It was super fun and very enriching. Another thing that was really important to me was my cohort. I think without my cohort during my year, it would have been so different. We bounced ideas off of each other and we really understood what each other was going through during the year. So having them there and having such a close-knit group of friends that felt a little bit more like home was really nice. Some of the harder things that I had to deal with while I was there were things like homesickness. I thought that I was going to be homesick the entire time that I was in Hungary, but luckily it didn't really kick in very much until the holiday season rolled around. I think this is because I had such a great community around me that I didn't really ever feel like I wasn't at home. My flatmates in Szeged made me really feel like our flat was our home, and all of my language swap friends and friends in the community really made me feel like I was at home, and so I never felt like I was missing out on anything. But when Thanksgiving and Christmas rolled around, I started to feel like I was missing my family a little bit, and I started to feel a little bit more sad. And so I did a lot of FaceTiming and calling with my family here, and that made it feel a little bit more close to home. Another thing that was hard, obviously, as you all recognize because I'm doing this video right now in April and not in July, that my year was ended early because of the coronavirus, and that is a very real part of my year, and I am okay and welcome any questions about it. It was not the ending that I was expecting, but it was the safest ending for us to have. So the ELCA decided to pull home all of the YAGM volunteers, and it was a very hard way to leave my community. I actually left in 5 hours, so I told them that I would like to come home because of the virus, and I was leaving Szeged just 5 hours later. So I had 5 hours to pack my suitcase of all of the things that I had for a whole year and to say goodbye to all of my friends. So it was a little bit crazy to think about but putting a pause on all of these relationships and saying goodbye to a city that had become my home in such a short period of time. It was very hard. So, that being said, we are obviously still right in the middle of this crisis, but I am still kind of forging ahead with some of the relationships that I made in Hungary. I'm still teaching my students. I'm still in contact with my friends from the language swap and from other places in my community, and I think I really have lifelong friendships that I had there. Now I would like to go into some of the most fun or interesting questions that I've gotten about Hungary since being home, or even while I was there. My favorite question that everybody keeps asking is, what was the food like? Hungarian food is amazing. I actually just made a dish that's called chicken paprikash for my family the other night. It doesn't look very pretty. I'm showing you guys a picture of it now, but it is delicious. It is like the Hungarian version of beef stroganoff, but with more ingredients in it than beef stroganoff. That's one of my favorite things that I ate. I also learned how to make traditional Hungarian halászé, or fish soup. It is actually directly translate to fisherman's soup, but you'll hear it more often called fish soup in Szeged and in Hungary in general. Szeged, my city, actually has its own version of fish soup, and I got to learn how to make it from an older man in my congregation who spoke absolutely no English, and my Hungarian is very patchy. So that was fun and interesting to figure out how to learn together. And it is one of the hardest processes that I've ever had to do. It took almost 6 hours to do everything from start to finish, but the end result was so worth it. It was the most delicious fish soup that I think I have ever had, and I ate a lot of it when I was in Hungary. Another food that I love is they have Hungarian pancakes that are almost like crepes, and they are delicious. They're not always sweet. You can make them sweet, but you can also make them salty with sour cream and cheese and bacon, and they are delicious. So yeah, I love getting questions about the food because I just love talking about it. And another big food that comes from Hungary, I actually just had some sent to me from one of my cohort members, is paprika, or as they say in Hungary, paprika. It is one of the main exports of Hungary, so it's everywhere and used in everything. And Hungarian paprika has much more flavor than American paprika because of the peppers that it's made from. So if you ever see Hungarian paprika in the store, that's what I recommend always. Harris Teeter has one that says the Pride of Szeged on it. That's the one that I have in my house right now, and it's amazing, and I used a ton of it in my chicken paprikash the other night. Another question that I love getting were what were my favorite places to visit when I was in Hungary. So we started our year off with training in a small city called Bodrog-Keresztúr, which is in the north part of Hungary. It was gorgeous. We stayed at a Lutheran retreat center there, and the views looked like something that I didn't even think it could exist. It was 100% one of the most pretty places that I have ever been. We also did a lot of traveling within my community, so Szeged is beautiful, and I got to see a lot of the places around the city. The city center is beautiful. It's this beautiful park that has lots of statues. There's actually even a little nook off of a tree that looks like a pig head, and they call it the Pig of Szeged. So once you find it, you're supposed to have good luck even though everybody can see it. That was one of the first things that I got to see when I was there. It's gorgeous. Just the whole country is really gorgeous. Everywhere you go, you see a new sunset or a new flower that is just beautiful. You can't even comprehend the beauty that is in this country. My favorite local places to visit in Szeged were some of the coffee houses. Hungarian coffee is very different than American coffee. They serve it in cups that are about this big, and it almost is like a shot of espresso instead of a cup of coffee. I actually went to Starbucks one time when I was in Hungary because they had just opened it in Szeged, and I was so excited. And I went in and ordered my drink like I knew what I was talking about, and they joked and they said, "Are you American?" And I said, "Yes, I am." So knowing that American coffee habits are very different than Hungarian coffee habits is kind of funny. But the coffee houses were great, and they were places that I would see people that I knew, and I would be sitting there drinking a smoothie or a latte or whatever I had ordered, and a student would come up to me or a friend from Language Swap would come up to me, and we would just sit and talk for hours, even though neither of us had planned to be there. Another place that I loved to go was to some of the other parks around my city. Szeged has 4 or 5 different pretty prominent parks. One of the biggest one is on Dome Square. There are 2 towers on this church that I'm showing you right now, and dome means the tower things, and so that is a very well-known square, and Szeged is also known for its festivals. So there were several festivals that I went to that were in this square, including the Christmas festival that lasted for almost a whole month, and a wine festival that featured lots of the local wine regions. And it was just so much fun. I got to ice skate. There was a huge hay maze that we went through, and so many different fun things that we got to do in that square. There was even pony rides, you name it, it's probably in that square. So that was one of my favorite places to go as well. So those were some of my favorite places to visit. Another question that I really like to get is, who were my favorite people to hang out with when I was in Szeged? Aside from literally everyone in my language swap, I had a few best friends while I was there. One of them, her name is Nelly. She was also a volunteer with a different organization. She is from Armenia, and she is one of my best friends that I made when I was in Hungary. I felt very blessed to have friends that were from all over the world, so I got to learn not just about Hungarian culture, but about cultures that were from all over the world. It was pretty amazing and a pretty awesome experience to have. So she was probably my best friend. I also had really good relationships with my two flatmates. Their names were Aniko and Esther, which are very Hungarian names. One of them was a teacher, and one of them was a pharmacy student. They were very nice and very good at English and made me feel very comfortable. For those that don't know, I got pretty sick in November and actually ended up in the Hungarian hospital, which was a very scary experience, but my flatmates helped me through it. They were talking to me on the phone, they were making me feel more comfortable and making sure that I had everything that I needed to have when I got home. Anyways, those were some of my favorite relationships that I made when I was in Hungary. So that's just a little bit about my year. A couple more expectations that I thought just to kind of close this out. I expected to absolutely know whether or not I wanted to be a pastor by the time I got home. That did not happen. I'm still discerning the call. Again, when you tell God you have to do something, he's gonna laugh and say, good try. So I'm still discerning that call. I thought that I was going to learn to be more independent and to be able to do more things on my own, and thankfully that did happen. I learned interdependence, so I learned how to rely on people but to also rely on myself. That's a big thing that we talk about in Yagam, is learning how to ask for help and rely on other people when you need to, but also learning how to be independent and be self-reliant and self-resilient and learning to do things for yourself. So I think those were some of the best things that I learned and some of the biggest expectations that I had going into my year. I am excited to hear you guys' questions. I hope that you will join me for one of my 2 question and answer sessions that we're going to have via Zoom very soon. So I hope that I will see your wonderful faces there so that I can answer some questions that you have. And to end out our little video here, I would like to read you guys a Bible verse that was very important for me during my year. It is Romans 8:28, and it says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." This Bible verse was so comforting for me during my year. It reminded me that there was a reason that I was doing what I was doing, even if it wasn't exactly how I thought it was going to be, and it didn't always go perfectly. There was a reason, and God works for the good of his people through people that are called to do his work. In the United States, in Greenville, in my house, in Hungary, no matter where we are. So it was very comforting to remember those words and knowing that God had a plan and that there was a reason that I was doing what I was doing. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Just a reminder that I will do another presentation, probably a longer version of this when we're able to meet face to face again at our church. But for now, this is just kind of my debrief for you all to let you all know what's going on, and I look forward to having your questions. Thanks, guys.